That's a word that means showing discrimination in a good sense, good judgment, being wise. It's often connected with wisdom. When you read the book of Proverbs, wrong graphics here, guys. We'll see if that can be quickly changed over. You do have the one that we're thinking of, do you not? Okay. When I see a picture of Dana, we'll start. Do you remember Dana? Dana Carvey. Back in the days when George H.W. Bush was president of the country, and he was on Saturday Night Live, and he had this, now that wouldn't be prudent, kind of an imitation of the president. Wouldn't be wise, wouldn't be prudent to do that at this juncture. Wouldn't be showing the proper discrimination and so forth. Wisdom says it dwells together with prudence. I possess knowledge and discretion. And this morning we want to take a look at a prudent person. Who is that person? What are their characteristics? How do they behave? And so forth. And we've got 8 of them that we want to kind of go through. A prudent person, first of all, we're going to mention here, seeks knowledge and understanding. We're interested in becoming knowledgeable. And we want to not only know something, we want to understand it. I remember the old Texas guy one time said to me, he said, "I'm not sure I understand all I know about that." You ever heard that expression? I'm not sure I understand all I know. Prudence, being able to make discriminating and wise decisions, means that you're looking for knowledge. You want to know something, but then you want to understand what you know and its implications. The mind of the prudent acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. So if we want to be wise, and specifically prudent, we are pursuing knowledge. The foolish, the simple, are content with foolishness, and whatever they hear, it goes. They accept it, maybe. We'll see that in just a minute again. Let me back up. Number 2, let's go to number 2, Rick. We're having a little trouble here with the prudent person seeks counsel. In everything the prudent individual acts with knowledge, but a fool flaunts his folly. How do we get to be knowledgeable? One of the ways we get to be knowledgeable is seeking counsel. And Proverbs says there's more safety in many counselors. The more counselors we have, assuming that we're choosing some good counselors, those who know something about what we want to know something about. Those are the ones that we want to go to. If you're going to buy a car, for example, you might want to go. Are you flipping that ahead? Why is it going? Pardon? I'm on point number 2, and I'm not, well, I'll just leave it there. We'll go to 13, 16 here in just a minute. If you want to buy a car, you might consult Consumer Reports, because you assume that there's some knowledgeable people who can tell you the good points and bad points of a particular car. You may want to talk to other customers who've bought that particular vehicle that you're interested in. My policy has been, if there's a new car out, and used to they all came out in September of the year before I would wait for a year before I bought. When I bought my 1970 Maverick, I bought it in 1970, not when it came out in 1969, okay? I wanted to give the car makers plenty of time to do the recall. Then I'd know really what I was buying, okay? And before we bought our Chevy, now I don't want to start any arguments here this morning, We were looking at a Ford Taurus, and we were quite interested in it, had a good appearance and so forth. And so Betty had a mechanic that she had used for a number of years, and we asked him, what do you think of the Taurus? We kind of like that. He says, I like it. They seem to be good cars, but it seems to be around $75,000. I see a lot of them come in here for engine repair. So we bought a Chevy, and it's still going. My brother inherited that. We try to seek counselors. You say, well, that wasn't prudent. You bought a Chevy and not a Ford. What's wrong with you? Well, you can differ with that decision, but for us, it's gone well. We read up on it. We consulted a mechanic who deals with hands-on issues of cars, and then we went with the Chevy, and it seems to have worked for us. When we seek counselors, it helps us to avoid impulse decisions. Ever made an impulse decision and say, well, I wish I'd thought about that a little longer, and sought counsel either in print or in person with someone else? When we seek counselors, then that prevents us from making emotional decisions. Sometimes we make decisions based on emotions, then later we decide that wasn't a good decision. It's like the man who said to his wife, I was a fool when I married you. And she says, I know you were, but I was so infatuated at the time, I didn't notice. Both of them swept up in emotions, and they made imprudent decisions based on emotions rather than on knowledge. Seeking counselors also avoids the issue or the problem of stubbornness. All the wives' ears are perking up. When he wants to go from point A to point B, and I say we're going the wrong way, he doesn't want to seek counsel from the nearest gas station. How do we get there? Okay, but a prudent person, not only for family harmony, but for getting there, would pull over and ask for directions. Okay? Now the passage in Proverbs chapter 13. In everything the prudent acts with knowledge, but a fool flaunts his folly. A fool just has a tendency to say, well, who cares? It'll all work out. Listen to advice and accept discipline. And at the end, you'll be counted among the wise. Listen to advice. A wise person, a prudent person, listens to advice. And then thirdly, a prudent person listens to correction. That's part of that discipline that we just had in that previous verse here. In chapter 15, a fool despises his father's instruction, because a father's instruction often includes correction or something of discipline. But whoever heeds reproof, there's the correction, is prudent. And usually, seniors offer good correction based on experience. You know what experience is, don't you? That means you've made a lot of mistakes. And your good judgment now comes from making bad judgment then. So, if a senior has gone through life, he should be on your consultant list, or she should be on your consultant list, because it's likely they've been there, done that, and maybe they did it wrong the first time, and they want to keep you from doing it wrong your first time out. But only a prudent person will ask for that advice and will accept any correction, of course. Number 4, prudent person knows when it is better to not speak. Do you know when it is better to not speak? How many times have you said, I wish I hadn't said that? I wish I could take it back. But once the word is out there, it's like an arrow. You can't bring it back. And someone has said, you don't have to say everything you think. A thought comes in your mind and you just blurt it out. A prudent person chews on it before he spits it out. That may be just a little bit of a too graphic of a metaphor there, but we need to chew on our words for a while or else we may choke on them later. But you don't have to believe everything you think. You don't have to say everything that you believe. There's a time and there's a place, and timing can be very important. Or it may be that we shouldn't say it at all. Proverbs 10, when words are many, transgression is not lacking. Now, do you believe that? If you're a person of few words, you may be among the wise. You may be among the prudent, who has the discrimination to say, well, I could say this, but this may not have the effect that I think it's going to have. And so you spend a little time thinking about it before you say it, or if you say it at all. Transgression is not lacking if words are many. Either that's true or it's not. I think it's true. The more you talk, the more likely you are to say something that's hurtful or wrong or just dumb. But the prudent are restrained in speech. We will restrain our speech if we're prudent. And we won't just let everyone know what we're thinking moment by moment. The prudent keep their knowledge to themselves, but a fool's heart blurts out folly. Sometimes you know something and you know it's true, but you keep that knowledge to yourself. Maybe it was spoken to you in confidence, and it would be imprudent to let that out. Number 5, a prudent person is not gullible. Not gullible. Only simpletons believe everything they're told. The prudent carefully consider their steps. You believe everything you're told? You believe everything you see on Facebook? Albert Einstein, I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots. I love that saying, but Einstein didn't say it. I saw it this last week on Facebook. And I thought, well, maybe let me do a little checking out here. They can't find that anywhere in Einstein's writings or recordings or whatever. You say, well, it's still wise saying. Yes, it is. But you're passing on false information if you don't check it out. And there's no telling how much false information that I've imprudently passed on, because I liked what it said. Okay? There was another one that I thought was great. Abraham Lincoln said, you can't believe everything you read on the internet. Well, that was, I didn't pass that one on. That was obviously false on its face. But the prudent person here is not gullible. He doesn't just believe everything because it's in print or it was on the radio or whatever. And we see stuff on Facebook and in the news, and you think, that's got to be photoshopped. I can't imagine someone willingly putting himself in that picture looking like a fool. I mean, it happens by accident when someone with their cell phone takes the picture, but no, some pictures, that I saw one this morning. No, it can't be. You don't believe everything you see or hear, and you certainly don't pass it on without verification. And Christians need to see that. We get information and we think it's gospel truth, primarily because we like what it says, and then we pass it on without checking it out. That's not prudent. A prudent person ignores insults. Oh, this is a great one. In chapter 12, the wise man said, fools show their annoyance at once, but the prudent overlook an insult. You say something to an individual, maybe you insult them, maybe you question what they just said, and a fool is quick to react and is quick to explode, is maybe quick to get angry. But the prudent person ignores that insult, doesn't see it as something personally against him, even though it may be intended for that, but deals with the issue at hand if it needs to be dealt with. That's the prudent individual. Number 7, And I love these last couple here. I love all of these, but this is one of my favorites coming out of Proverbs. And the wise individual apparently thought it was a great saying too, because he mentioned it twice. Once in chapter 22, once again in chapter 27. But a prudent person foresees problems. He's looking down the road, and he's seeing potential problems or trouble. At the end of this kind of behavior, or at the end of taking this path, or at the end of making a decision to do this, he thinks ahead, and he is looking at how this might go in different directions. That is a wise individual, a prudent person. Proverbs 23. Now it should be 22:3, Rick. Let me see if I can find that before he does. Proverbs 22:3. It's mentioned again in Proverbs 27. A prudent man sees danger and takes refuge, but the simple keep going and suffer for it. You see danger ahead. You use your mind for what it's intended. The foolish individual says to himself, well, everything will be all right. Let's just do it. That's not being prudent. And then finally, we have the prudent individual plans ahead. Plans ahead. He who gathers in the summer is a prudent son, but he who sleeps in harvest is a son who brings shame. Do you want to eat later on? He says, well, gather in harvest time. Save some of that for later on. How many of you have ever done canning? Some of the seniors especially, some of the juniors too, have done some canning. And I remember used to the basement. If you had a basement back where I was from, that was a good place to keep what you had canned. The temperature was a good temperature all the time. But that's planning ahead. That's having more than you can eat right now. My grandfather had a humongous garden. I think they may have called that a truck garden or whatever, but it was huge. And they ate out of that when it was ripe. They ate out of that from the canned goods later, and then he sold some of it. That's being prudent. And the wise man says, look at the ant. The ant stores its provisions in the summer and gathers its food at harvest. Now, that's the only verse we got here, but it goes on through verse 11 of chapter 6, where the ant, he says, watch this little creature. He can teach you something about being wise. He's industrious. He doesn't need a leader. He just goes out and does what he needs to do at the time it needs to be done, and then he enjoys the benefits later on. Go to the ant. Plan ahead. Well, that's kind of a brief course from Proverbs in being wise, especially in being prudent. Prudent is kind of a subhead of being wise. But prudent means that we make that discriminating or wise decision at the time it needs to be made. And as we grow and as we mature, we hope that we become wiser. Someone said that wisdom comes with age. And I know sometimes age shows up all by itself. But we want to commit ourselves as young people, as you grow, to being wise, to being prudent. Take your time. Listen to good counsel, whether it's from seniors or those who are involved in similar situations. Don't say everything you know or believe everything you think. Go to the book of Proverbs. Let that be your starting point. I want to be a wise and prudent person. I want to make good decisions. And God will bless when you take that path. Every culture has something like Proverbs. We've heard many of those wise sayings passed on from grandma and mom and dad, and we sort of make them a part of our modus operandi. This is what I believe, this is what I want to do. And then we question those maybe sometimes as we go. But a prudent person wants to start with his knowledge and build on that so that we can become wise. And one of the wisest things we can do is put our trust in Christ, who has become for us our wisdom, our righteousness, our salvation. If you'd like to make that decision, if you hear his voice calling you now, would you do that while we stand and sing?